I still remember the way the cold air hit my face that morning in downtown Chicago. The sky was gray, the wind was sharp, and the city moved around me like it had somewhere urgent to be. But I walked slowly, steady, calm, almost too calm for what was about to happen. Right in front of me stood the building that changed my life once, and was about to change it again. 40 floors of glass, steel, and polished power. Carlyle and Grant Investments. To everyone else in that lobby, I was just another guy in a suit. Another early morning executive trying to make his way through the week. No one stared. No one whispered. No one recognized me. And that was the beautiful part. Because in just a few minutes, every single one of them would know exactly who I was. As I stepped inside, the warmth of the lobby wrapped around me. The marble floor reflected the ceiling lights like a mirror, and the soft hum of the elevator filled the room. People rushed past me, assistants carrying tablets, partners arguing quietly, interns holding coffee trays like trophies. They had no idea I was their new boss. None, not a single clue. Pressed the elevator button, and as the doors slid open, I caught my reflection in the metal. I didn't look like the man who had walked out of this building years ago. Back then, I was hopeful, hungry, desperate to prove myself. Back then, I was also in love. Emily, her name still echoed somewhere in the far corners of my mind, like a song I once knew every lyric to. She had been my girlfriend, no more than that. She was my partner, my best friend, my future. We were together for years. We built plans together. We dreamed together. And then, she left me. Not just for anyone. She left me for David Carlyle, the man who controlled this very firm. My investor, my mentor, my supposed supporter, and she didn't hide why. She wanted stability, status, a life that looked perfect from the outside. David could give her that. I couldn't, at least not then. The elevator dinged at the 38th floor. The floor where the executive boardroom sat. The floor where my name, whether they liked it or not, was about to be added to every decision, every vote, every dollar that moved in or out of this company. When the doors opened, a hush fell over the hallway. Assistants paused mid-step. People glanced up from their desks, confused, because I wasn't just visiting. I wasn't just attending a meeting. I was there to take my seat at the head of the table. The seat David once controlled. Funny how life works. Years ago, I walked into this office as a young entrepreneur begging for a chance. And today, I was walking in as the majority owner of their entire firm. But it wasn't luck that got me here. It wasn't fate or timing. It was every long night, every setback, every moment I thought I'd break, but didn't. I walked past the glass walls and into the boardroom. 12 chairs around a long table. A skyline view that looked like success itself. And in the biggest chair at the far end, my chair, now. As I placed my hand on the leather, I felt a rush of memories hit me at once. Emily smiling, then Emily leaving. The look in David's eyes when he shook my hand like he owned my future. He once had all the power. He once had everything IDN single quotes T. And now he didn't even know I was about to walk right back into his world, with more authority than he ever dreamed I'd have. People talk about revenge like it's loud, messy, explosive. But sometimes revenge is quiet, calm, simple. Sometimes revenge is walking into a room full of people who once doubted you, and taking the seat they never thought you'd reach. That morning, as I looked out over the Chicago skyline from the head of that table, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because I beat anyone, but because I finally understood who I had become. The boy who was left behind was gone. The man who replaced him, he was just getting started. I used to believe the best stories began with sparks, but ours started with a spill. A clumsy, embarrassing, iced coffee disaster in the middle of a crowded college cafe. I had bumped into her, This girl with warm brown eyes and a laptop covered in stickers. Coffee splashed across her keyboard. I froze in panic, but she just laughed. "It's okay," she said, wiping it off. Maybe the universe was trying to reset my day. That was Emily, lighthearted, sweet, easy to love. We spent hours talking that afternoon. And before I even realized it, she became a part of my world. A week later, we were inseparable. A month later, we were planning dreams. And for the next 6 years, I thought we were building a life together, piece by piece, hope by hope. Those years weren't perfect, but they were ours. We lived in tiny apartments with peeling paint and late rent notices. We ate cheap pizza on the floor because we couldn't afford a kitchen table yet. We shared blankets, chased dreams, and held on to each other even when life felt heavy. Every step forward felt like we were pushing against the whole world. But we always said the same thing: one day, this will all make sense. And for a long time, I believed that. During those years, I built the foundation of my startup, BridgeLink. Back then, it was nothing more than a messy idea on my whiteboard. A dream to help small businesses reach digital tools usually reserved for big companies. I worked late nights, coded until sunrise, and squeezed every piece of energy I had into making it real. Emily supported me, at least in the beginning. She'd sit beside me, editing my pitch decks, handing me coffee, telling me I was meant for something bigger. But dreams take time. Dreams take sacrifice. And sometimes dreams create distance. As BridgeLink grew, so did the pressure. Investors wanted updates. Clients needed features. There were weeks when I barely slept, barely ate, barely looked up from my laptop. That's when David Carlisle entered our lives. He was everything I wasn't, at least on the surface: polished, confident, well-connected. The kind of man who walked into a room and made everyone straighten their posture. His firm wanted to invest in BridgeLink, and I needed funding. David spoke with authority, like success lived in his pocket. He made the future seem reachable, almost guaranteed. But it wasn't just the business world he impressed. Emily noticed him too. She admired the way he carried himself. She admired his tailored suits, his expensive watch, his calm certainty. I brushed it off at first. She was simply impressed, right? How could I blame her? David represented everything I was trying to earn. But slowly, something shifted. She stopped laughing the same way she used to. She started asking questions like, "How long will this take? Are you sure this is the right path? I need stability." I promised her I was doing everything for us, that all the long nights and sacrifices were building our future. But the more I tried to reassure her, the more she drifted. And one night, after a long trip for investor meetings, I came home to something I'll never forget. Her suitcase was packed. Her eyes were red. Her voice was quiet but final. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. "You're always working, and I don't know when it'll pay off. I need security. I need a real plan." I told her I loved her. I told her to stay. I told her we were close, I could feel it. But she shook her head. "David understands what I need." Those words shattered something inside me. She walked out that night. And 3 months later, she married him. No slow transition. No second thoughts. One moment she was my future, and the next she was the wife of the man who invested in my company. I hit rock bottom after that. Work didn't feel inspiring anymore. It felt like survival. Food didn't taste the same. Mornings hurt. Nights hurt more. People say heartbreak fades with time. But the truth is, it doesn't fade. You just learn how to carry it. And that's exactly what I did. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't the end of my story. It was only the part where everything breaks. Before everything changes. When Emily left, people expected me to break. Honestly, I expected it too. Losing her felt like losing the future I had built inside my own mind. The late-night talks, the plans, the promises, they all vanished in one moment. I thought I'd fall apart. I thought I'd quit everything. I thought the pain would destroy every piece of motivation I had left. But something strange happened. Instead of collapsing, I woke up. The heartbreak didn't crush me, it fueled me. Every doubt, every fear, every question she left behind turned into a fire that pushed me forward. It wasn't healthy, it wasn't wise, and it definitely wasn't peaceful. But it worked. I poured everything into BridgeLink. Every sleepless night. Every lesson learned the hard way. Every ounce of determination. And suddenly, the company started to move fast. BridgeLink shifted from a small, hopeful startup into a platform that people actually needed. Businesses reached out. Partnerships formed. Our AI tools helped small shops and family companies compete with national brands. We landed government grants. We signed nationwide contracts. Before I knew it, we weren't the underdogs anymore. We were the ones setting trends. We were the ones other companies were studying. And we were the ones investors kept calling, begging to get in early before the next big jump. People said it looked like overnight success. But nothing about it was overnight. It was built on emotion, loss, and grit. While BridgeLink rose, something else was happening, something I didn't expect. David's firm. The firm Emily walked into as the new wife of a powerful man. It began to crack. I heard small things at first. A failed investment here. A risky deal there. A project that should have worked but didn't. And then rumors spread. David had been making bold decisions, trying to grow too fast, trying to keep up with the new wave of tech companies rising across the country. His confidence had crossed into recklessness. By the third year of BridgeLink's rise, his firm wasn't the star of Chicago anymore. Investors whispered. Partners backed out. Analysts questioned the numbers. From the outside, it looked like a slow decline. But from the inside, it looked like desperation. And fate, well, fate has a strange sense of timing. While David stumbled, BridgeLink caught the attention of a major tech competitor. One afternoon, I got an email that changed everything. They wanted to merge with us. A merger that would expand their reach, grow our platform. And here's the twist. Allow them to acquire a handful of investment firms that had been on their radar. Guess whose firm was one of them? Carlo and Grant Investments. My chest tightened when I saw the list. Surely someone else noticed the connection. Surely someone remembered the history between us. But no. To them, it was just business. To me, it was the moment the universe finally whispered, "Your turn." The idea sounded impossible at first. How could I, the guy David once called young and hopeful, ever gain control of the same firm he used to impress Emily? But the more I read through the proposal, the clearer it became. If I agreed to the merger, and if the acquisition went through, I could become the executive leader of the entire group. I could hold the seat David spent his life protecting. I could own the firm he used to win the woman I loved. This wasn't revenge born from anger. This was justice wrapped in opportunity. A door opening not because I pushed it, but because David had weakened his own foundation. So I said yes. What followed wasn't quick or easy. It was months of paperwork, negotiations, legal reviews, financial audits, and intense conversations behind closed doors. But each step brought me closer. Each meeting pulled more power toward my side of the table. Each signature tightened my control. And slowly, quietly, the balance shifted. BridgeLink was no longer the small dream he once funded. It was now the key to taking over his world. He didn't know it yet. Emily didn't know it yet. No one knew it yet. But the day was coming when they would look up and realize that the man they left behind had become the man they now answered to. And nothing could stop that moment from arriving. Thought I understood betrayal. I thought I had lived through the worst of it when Emily walked out of my life and into David's arms. But I was wrong. The real betrayal, the one that hit deeper than heartbreak, came quietly. In a conference room filled with untouched coffee cups and stacks of paperwork. It happened during the due diligence phase of the merger. The part everyone hates. The part where lawyers dig, auditors double-check, and every number is examined like it might explode. One afternoon, an auditor knocked on my temporary office door. He looked uneasy, the kind of uneasy that makes your stomach drop before you even hear the words. "Sir, there's something you should see." He handed me a folder. Nothing dramatic. Just a thin, simple folder with a few printed pages inside. But when I opened it, my whole world shifted. The first page was an email sent years ago. Back when I was still building BridgeLink, still hopeful, still clueless. The email was from David. And the words on the screen felt like someone pressing a cold hand against my heart. He's young, hopeful, and easy to manipulate. If his idea fails, we pick up the pieces. If it succeeds, we reshape it under our control. I stared at those lines for a long time, feeling the room tilt slightly. Young, hopeful, easy to manipulate. Was that all I was to him? Just a stepping stone? A business toy? Before I could process it, the auditor said, "There's more." The next email was worse. "He's distracted, emotional. Best time to push for contract changes." The date on that email? The exact week Emily left me. My chest tightened. My pulse pounded in my ears. I turned the page again. And that's when I saw it. A revised contract. A version of the deal I never remembered signing. It gave David more control, more rights, more leverage over my company. And at the bottom, my signature. Or something that looked like it. The auditor pointed to it gently. "We checked this against your verified signature. It doesn't match. Not even close." I felt something inside me break, not loudly, but quietly, like a small piece of innocence slipping away. Emily leaving wasn't just painful. It was useful to him. While I was heartbroken, barely able to think straight, David pushed through a change that reshaped everything. He had taken advantage of my pain like it was a business opportunity. And Emily, she had no idea. She walked away for stability, for certainty, for a man who promised a perfect future. She didn't know she had left at the exact moment he needed her to leave. She didn't know her decision made me vulnerable. She didn't know her timing gave David the chance to tighten his grip around my dream. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just betrayal of the heart. This was betrayal of trust, ambition, and loyalty. He hadn't just taken the woman I loved. He had tried to reshape my entire future without my consent. I expected anger to rise in me. I expected rage, shouting, slamming doors, but it didn't come. Instead, there was a sharp, cold clarity, a calmness that felt almost dangerous. Because in that moment, I understood something important. David didn't break me. He revealed himself. And I didn't want revenge that made noise. No screaming. No messy confrontation. No dramatic scenes. I wanted something better. I wanted justice. I wanted truth to surface on its own. I wanted the kind of revenge that didn't need a single raised voice power. Real power. Power he couldn't predict. Power he couldn't stop. Power he had once tried to take from me. I closed the folder, thanked the auditor, and placed the papers gently on the table, because now, everything made sense. This wasn't just a business deal anymore. This wasn't just a merger. This was the moment I realized I had been played years ago, and the moment I decided to take back everything he tried to steal. Not by destroying him, but by rising above him. By taking the very seat he sat in. By becoming the boss he never imagined I'd be. This wasn't revenge fueled by anger. This was justice fueled by truth, and the truth was only beginning to surface. Some people want revenge to be loud, explosive, messy, but I learned something. The most powerful revenge is quiet, calm, unshakable, and it begins long before the other person even realizes what's happening. After discovering the truth about David, the emails, the forged signature, the manipulation, I made a choice. I wasn't going to confront him. I wasn't going to shout or demand answers. I didn't need to. His downfall was already in motion. All I had to do was guide it. The merger moved forward smoothly, almost too smoothly. David had no idea I'd seen the documents. No idea I knew what he had done to me years ago. No idea I was quietly taking control of the very firm he once used to impress Emily. When the final papers were signed and the acquisition officially closed, my name became tied to every major decision inside Carlyle and Grant Investments. I didn't make a grand announcement. I didn't walk in with an ego or a smile. I simply stepped into the role he never imagined I'd reach. The restructuring began immediately, but quietly. No firings. No dramatic changes. No chaos. Instead, I created a new position for David. A title that sounded prestigious enough to flatter him, but held no real authority. Strategic advisor to the executive office. Big words. Small power. His assistant stayed. His office stayed. Even his nameplate stayed, but the influence? Gone. Every budget, every partnership, every contract, every decision that mattered, all of them now required my signature. He didn't notice it at first. He thought the title was an honor. He thought he was being respected as a veteran leader. But slowly, the truth started slipping through the cracks. Phone calls he used to receive never came. Meetings he once led no longer needed him. Projects he used to control now ran without his approval. I didn't humiliate him publicly. I didn't strip him down. I didn't expose his past behavior. I simply closed the door he once shut in my face. Weeks later, I attended a charity gala the firm sponsored every year. I wore a simple black suit, nothing flashy, nothing loud. I was there to support the event, not make a scene. But fate always has a sense of timing. I saw her before she saw me, Emily. She looked exactly the same. And completely different at the same time. Her dress shimmered under the lights, but her eyes looked tired, unsure, almost heavy. And when she finally noticed me, she froze, her breath caught. Her expression shifted from surprise to disbelief. "Wow," she whispered when she walked up to me. You've changed." I smiled politely. Life has a way of doing that. She studied me like she was trying to understand the person standing in front of her. "David told me you walked away from your company," she said quietly. "He said things didn't work out for you." I nodded lightly. "Oh, Bridgelink worked out. Just not in the way he expected." Her cheeks flushed. Her eyes softened with something that felt like regret. I didn't feed into it. I didn't ask about her marriage. I didn't mention the emails. I didn't bring up the past. I stayed calm, polite, distant, because that was the real victory, not the company. Not the position, not the power. The real victory was how little her presence affected me. She hesitated. "You seem different." "I had to grow," I said. "And some growth only happens when you're forced to stand alone." She looked down, as if the words stung. Maybe they did. Maybe she finally saw the life she walked away from. Maybe she finally realized the man she thought would never rise. Did, but I didn't entertain it. I didn't comfort her. I didn't offer a way back into my world. That door had closed long ago. As I walked away from her, toward my new team, I felt something calm settle inside me. Revenge didn't come from hurting her. Revenge came from rising without her. Quiet, steady, powerful. The man she left behind was gone. The man who replaced him, he was finally standing exactly where he belonged. The morning of the board meeting felt heavier than usual. The sky outside the 38th floor windows was pale, almost silent, like it knew what was coming. I walked into the boardroom with a folder in my hand, thin, simple, almost harmless looking. But inside that folder was the truth. Every executive was already seated. 12 faces. Some confident, some curious, some unaware of the storm about to break. David sat near the center of the table, straightening his tie like a man still pretending he held control. He glanced at me with a polite smile. He had no idea. I took my seat at the head of the table, the seat he once claimed as his throne. For a moment, the room buzzed with quiet chatter until I raised my hand. We need to discuss something before we begin. The room stilled. No one spoke. I placed the folder gently on the table. I have documents that were discovered during the final stages of due diligence. They reveal actions taken years ago, actions that need to be addressed openly. David shifted in his chair. Is this really necessary? He asked lightly. I met his eyes. Yes, I opened the folder and slid the first email across the table. Everyone here should read this. The executive closest to me scanned the page, and his eyebrows slowly lifted. He passed it to the person next to him. And then the next. A wave of confusion swept across the room. Confusion that slowly hardened into disbelief. Someone finally whispered, "He called you. Easy to manipulate?" I nodded once. There's more. I slid the second email across the table. This one hit harder. He targeted me during a week when I was emotionally unstable. I said calmly. A week when my personal life fell apart. He used that moment to push contract changes I never agreed to. The room fell completely silent. No shuffling. No murmuring. Just the sound of the city humming behind the glass walls. And this, I said, placing the forged contract on the table, is the result of that manipulation. David's face drained of color. He reached for the contract, hands shaking slightly as he looked at the signature. That's not. I can explain, he stammered, but the explanation didn't come. He looked from the paper to my eyes, and for the first time, the mask slipped. He knew he had been exposed. One of the executives finally spoke. This is serious. Extremely serious. Another added, forgery? Manipulation? This undermines the entire foundation of this firm. David swallowed hard. It wasn't like that. I was trying to protect the firm. I raised a hand calmly. No one here believes that. He opened his mouth again, but the words didn't form. Because the truth was standing in front of him, undeniable and complete. I took a breath. Not angry, not emotional, just steady. David, for the integrity of this company, and for the future of everyone sitting at this table, you need to resign. Effective immediately. He stared at me, eyes wide, almost pleading. He wasn't fighting back. He couldn't. His downfall wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. And final. With trembling hands, he signed the resignation letter placed before him. The room exhaled as he set the pen down. And just like that, the man who once stood above me was finally held accountable. Later that afternoon, as I prepared to leave the office, I heard someone call my name from the hallway. It was Emily. She looked different, tired, softer, almost unsure. She stepped closer, her eyes searching mine. I heard what happened, she whispered. I didn't know he did those things to you. I nodded gently. I know. I'm so sorry, she said, voice cracking. I never meant to hurt you. I thought you moved on. I thought you failed and gave up. Her words stung, but only for a moment. I wasn't the man she remembered. I wasn't the man she walked away from. I didn't give up, I said softly. I just needed time to grow. She looked down at her hands. I wish things had been different. I gave a small, calm smile. So do I, but we can't rewrite the past. She waited for more, for forgiveness that opened a door, or a glance that invited her back. But I didn't offer either. I accepted her apology. I wished her well. And then I let her walk away. Because closure isn't about going backwards. It's about finally understanding you don't need to. When the board meeting ended and the signatures dried on the page, something strange happened. Not a cheer. Not a celebration. Not even a rush of satisfaction. Just silence. A deep, calm silence that felt like the first real breath I'd taken in years. David left the company, the same way a storm leaves a city quietly, after all the noise is gone. No farewell party. No handshake tour. No dramatic exit. He just walked out with a small box in his hands, the same way countless employees had walked out before him. The difference was, this time, it was the man who once believed he held the world in his pocket. I didn't watch him leave. I didn't need to, because removing him from power was never about crushing him. It was about reclaiming my own life. My future, my voice. His downfall wasn't my victory. My growth was. After that day, the company shifted in a way I didn't expect. Employees seemed lighter. Meetings became more focused. Decisions were made with clarity instead of ego. It felt like a place rebuilding itself from the inside out. And Bridge Link? It flourished. We expanded our tools, partnered with national organizations, and launched programs that helped thousands of small businesses grow. Every step forward felt like proof that the story I once feared was over had only just begun. In the middle of all that growth, I realized something important. I didn't think about Emily anymore, not with anger, not with sadness, not even with longing. It was as if she had become a chapter in a book I no longer read. We never spoke again after that last hallway conversation. She didn't reach out, and I didn't look for her. And for the first time, the silence between us felt healthy, like closing a door that was long overdue. Sometimes, letting someone go isn't painful. Sometimes it's peaceful. In the months that followed, I poured myself into new projects, partnerships with small towns across the country, programs for youth entrepreneurs, and a foundation to help local shops stay alive in a changing world. Success didn't feel like a trophy. It felt like purpose. People began inviting me to speak at conferences. They wanted advice. They wanted to hear my story, but I never told them the revenge version. I told them the growth version, because what happened wasn't just betrayal, it was transformation. A painful one, yes. A difficult one, absolutely, but necessary. One evening, while leaving the office, I stopped to look out over Chicago from the lobby window. Cars streamed below like rivers of light. The skyline glowed in the night air. And I realized something I never expected. I didn't miss the life I lost. I didn't miss the person I used to be. And I didn't miss the people who chose to walk away. I was grateful for the path, every twist, every setback, every heartbreak, because without them, I wouldn't have become the man standing in that lobby, watching the city move forward. They thought my story ended when Emily left. They thought I was finished when David tried to reshape my future. They thought I'd stay broken, stuck in the past. But life has a way of surprising you. Sometimes the people who underestimate you teach you the most powerful lesson of all. You don't need them to rise. You don't need them to succeed. You don't need them to build the life you were meant to live. I walked out of the building that night feeling lighter, stronger, and more certain than ever. Because after everything, every betrayal, every setback, every quiet victory, I finally understood the truth. My life didn't grow because I got revenge. It grew because I chose myself. And that choice changed everything. People often ask me how I stayed so calm through everything. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the manipulation I never saw coming. They think there must have been a moment, a snap where anger took over, where I wanted to tear everything down around me. But the truth is, there was no snap. Just a slow, steady realization that changed my life forever. Betrayal doesn't define you. Your response does. When Emily walked away, I thought my world ended. When David forged my signature and reshaped my future behind my back, I thought I lost everything. For a long time, I carried this quiet belief that their choices somehow proved I wasn't enough. But pain has a strange way of revealing the truth. And here's the truth I want you to hear, really hear. When someone leaves you for status, it doesn't mean you lacked value. It means they lacked vision. Emily didn't leave because I wasn't worth loving. She left because she couldn't imagine who I'd become. She couldn't see the potential right in front of her. And that's not a reflection of me. That's a reflection of her. When people choose comfort over loyalty, you can't take that personally. It's not your failure, it's their fear. I used to think revenge meant making someone pay. But now I understand something deeper. Revenge isn't about hurting someone back. It's about proving to yourself that they didn't break you. The moment I learned about the forged documents, I didn't feel rage. I felt clarity. I realized the most powerful thing I could do wasn't to destroy David, but to outgrow him, to rise higher, to reclaim my future without lowering myself to his level. Because success, real, quiet, undeniable success, is the answer people never forget. It's the answer that speaks louder than anger, louder than confrontation, louder than any dramatic scene you could ever create. Success is the voice that says, I didn't need you. I never did. When I walked into that boardroom as the new majority owner, I didn't feel the need to rub it in anyone's face. I didn't need to gloat. I didn't need to remind them of the past. My presence alone was the reminder. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply living a life that makes the people who doubted you rethink everything. And here's something else I learned along the way, something I wish someone had told me when I was at my lowest. Being underestimated is a gift. When people expect you to fail, every victory hits harder. When they walk away, thinking you'll never rise, every step forward becomes a quiet triumph. When they look down on you, they give you a chance to surprise them in ways they never saw coming. Becoming the version of yourself they doubted. That's the real victory. Not proving them wrong out of spite, but growing into someone even you didn't know you could become. Looking back now, I don't see tragedy when I think of Emily or David. I see turning points. Painful ones, yes, but necessary. Without them, I might have stayed comfortable, small, afraid to dream bigger. Without the heartbreak, I might have settled. Without the betrayal, I might have trusted the wrong people for far too long. Sometimes life removes people for you. Sometimes it forces you to see their true nature before it's too late. Sometimes it lets things fall apart. So you have no choice but to rebuild stronger. If there's one lesson I hope you carry from my story, it's this. Don't let betrayal close your heart. Don't let loss define your future. Don't let someone else's choice shrink your belief in yourself. Your value doesn't disappear just because someone fails to see it. Your future doesn't collapse just because someone walks away. And your strength doesn't fade just because someone underestimates you. You are allowed to rise. You are allowed to rebuild. You are allowed to step into the life you deserve, even if it's a life others believed you couldn't reach. Because in the end, the greatest revenge isn't power. And it isn't success. It's becoming the person you were meant to be all along. If this story touched something in you, don't leave without hitting like and subscribing. Your support helps these stories reach people who need them. And tell me in the comments, have you ever been underestimated and then proved everyone wrong? Your story might inspire someone else to rise. I'll see you in the next chapter. Stay strong.